recently was on a vacation and saw Didier Deschamps. Me and my dad saw him. Yeah.
Ah,
Asked him about.
Where'd you bump into him?
What? Wait,
Harry?
what?
hello and welcome back to Just Another Football Podcast. Happy New Year. It's brilliant to have you. And for the first episode of 2022, it was all right that a rarity of this podcast is happening. All four of us are here. Yes, it's me, it's Sally, it's Fergal. Hello, Fergal. How are you? Hello. And George. Great to have you as well, as always.
Yeah, great to be here, as always.
Hope your Christmas and New Year's was good.
Yeah, it was alright. Drank probably too much, but apart from that. So.
Cool. Harry, as a co-host for the second time, probably 3 episodes, and I'll explain that in a minute. How are you, man?
I'm sweet, mate. It's good to be back.
It's lovely. And the reason why I'm hosting today is because I've honestly not watched enough football to be able to co-host and provide analysis.
How?
I'm sorry.
I've
Look,
never stopped you before, Ali.
look.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's just made he's
Not-
made secret of it before. To be fair, some would
Ah.
say he's done a poor job of hiding it, but
no.
Anytime
wouldn't
we
say
give
so.
An opinion that sounds like something Danny Murphy or Jermaine Genius would say. We haven't watched the game totally.
Yes.
That's the giveaway.
That's the giveaway from now on. Look, but yeah, I honestly, it was a pretty busy time, so I just didn't watch any football. So I'm just being transparent and going like, yeah,
It's your job.
it's my job, I know. But I didn't even have time to watch the Liverpool Chelsea game back. They say it was a good game. You guys watched it. You said before the recording it was a good game.
Yeah.
It was. George and Fergal, I'll start with you two first. I'll start with Fergal. What do you feel about the result? Because you were 2-0 down, and I did obviously watch the goals back. The second goal looked like it was a huge relief, but is it a satisfactory result given the current form, the Kaku stuff, which we'll get onto later? How do you feel about the result? Not necessarily the performance, but if you're going into it, we'll take a point. Is that something you would have taken, essentially?
No, not with the points that were dropped. It had to be a win. Both these 2 games had to be a win. To have any chance. This Liverpool game and the Man City one, with all the draws that have happened, and it was especially disappointing because I thought we should have went 1-0 up, and then with the Chalba mistake as well, it was like it felt like a missed opportunity to get at Liverpool. And I didn't even think the Salah goal was like, obviously his part was good, but I thought there was so many mistakes in that. It was like two poor moments for Chelsea in defence, and then not taking the chances that we had in going forward. And I ended up like, even at 2-2, I was like, I wasn't really celebrating. I think I saw a lot of tweets from people that were at the game, proper Chelsea fans, and they were buzzing. It was like, seemed to be a great atmosphere, and they were buzzing with the result, because they came back from 2-0 down. But in the grand scheme of things, I was like, we really need a third goal to win it, and it just never came. Really, it was disappointing.
Speaking of the second goal, one thing about that goal that isn't talked about enough is actually Alonso's part in this. He was way too slow reacting. Like,
I'd actually contrast that. Just sorry to cut you off, but
that's all right.
Rudiger has him, then Rudiger sort of goes forward, and it may not be Rudiger's fault essentially, but there's 3 players, any one of them could have reacted quicker. Rudiger, who had Salah and sort of passes him on, Kovacic, who's right beside Rudiger, and then Alonso, who does react but is ever slightly too late. He's too slow. He reads it completely wrong and never really gets close to him in the end.
Yeah, and that's why
Mendy. People were saying like how he's double bluffed him, triple bluffed him, and Salah's so good. I thought it was just. I just thought it was poor for Mendy, and I don't want to slag him off too much because he has been brilliant. But I just thought it was a poor moment. And as I said, there's sort of four players at fault there, trying to mark one player.
Yeah.
And although it's Mo Salah, because it's Mo Salah, you can't give him that. And I thought it was well taken. I wouldn't blame totally Alonso. I thought it was actually the other two, that Kovacic and Rudiger, that were at fault, because they were closer to him. And Alonso was the one that just reacted, and he didn't cover himself in glory, but he was reacting late because he thought someone else had him.
And George, you're ordinarily the one here that likes to take a positive spin on this. Are you going to take a positive spin on that result?
Positive spin. Did you hear him on James Alcott's stream? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so depressing.
But sometimes I feel like he does sometimes.
Yeah. Perfectly. And I got this one right as well. You know, we're drawing too many games. Without Reece James, we're gonna really struggle, really struggle to create enough. To be honest, and 2-2 isn't good enough. We should have won that game. We should have won again that game against, actually, if I'm honest, a Liverpool side that underperformed and has been underperforming for quite a while, and that don't impress me that much. In general, I know obviously that they were missing a few players, we were missing a few players, but in terms of the first 11 on both sides, it wasn't like they had to play a youngster or were forced to. You know, these are squad players that should be in and around the first team for both squads. And Liverpool's team wasn't good enough, and we should have taken advantage of that. So 2-2. I mean, I was ecstatic at half time. I thought we'd go on and sort of take charge and win the game.
Momentum was with you.
We were in charge for the whole game. There were two mistakes that were very costly, and it's a shame because Chalobah played so well for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
He was absolutely brilliant, but you can't make those mistakes when you've got Mane and Salah up front for Liverpool, and it's a shame, but it's not a good look, and the table doesn't look good.
And for Liverpool either. I mean, you say you're drawing too many games. That's the thing with Liverpool too, and why we're so behind Man City now. Title race is essentially over because we've lost 10 points from winning positions now this season. Yeah.
That's what I was going to add.
There's a complete lack of, and I mean complete lack of holding on to leads.
It's pragmatism. I think that's the word. I think it.
No, I don't think it's pragmatism necessarily. I just think it's control.
Well, that's the same thing in my opinion. At 2-0 up, it's sort of the time to get a bit more control in the game, keep the ball, make Chelsea work to get back in it. And what you don't do is go and hack someone down like James Milner did and give away a silly free kick. I know they didn't score directly from the free kick, and it's a screamer, he puts it in on the volley, whatever, but from an experienced player, and Carragher said it on Sky Sports, it's just so poor what he goes and does. And I just think when I watch Liverpool and you compare it to Man City have taken 17 leads this season and they've won all 17 games. Yeah. And the reason for that is they are much more... Control is probably a better word for it. Yeah. When they play with a lead, the opposition don't get anywhere near them. And it doesn't mean they thrash them every time, but it just means that they're going to have to work uber hard to even have the ball. And I just watched that game and it just became too much like a basketball match. And it was thrilling for me as a neutral watching it, thinking, Christ, this is a great game. Like, these are two very good sides, if slightly flawed on the day, missing a few players on either side. But you can also see why in the last few weeks, Man City have continued to win games and stretch the lead out. Yeah. The Chelsea and Liverpool have just struggled a little bit, and ultimately it looks like the title race is well, it looks like it's only going one way now, unfortunately.
You say unfortunately, why so? It's just three teams.
Because as a neutral, I'd say as a neutral.
You want to see like a 3-horse race?
I want to see a competitive league, because I think with the exception of the one season where it goes down to the last day, Liverpool 97, Man City 98, the title race has been decided by February, March in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And so as someone that doesn't really have a horse in the race, so to speak, I don't want to see Man City, win the league by 15 points every year. Like, that can't be a good thing for English football. I'm watching them on Saturday and their manager complaining about the fact that they can't put a proper bench out. The guy didn't bring £100 million signing on, So that's my point. Is that a couple of draws in December probably shouldn't be costly in a title race. But unfortunately, such is the wealth and the quality of Manchester City that it looks like it could be the death knell for both teams.
I also think I've heard that discussion a lot on Twitter this week about like how it's getting ridiculous, and like it's almost like you can't keep up with Man City. I think that you have to give, like, it is down to the wealth and everything, but I think if you give most of other managers that team, I don't think you get the consistency
Without a
running out of them.
striker, and
Yeah,
totally
yeah. Like I think Guardiola is just incredible, and he's been given everything that he wants. But as you say, if people were saying like no striker and how that's going to be an issue, but he's just like that much of a genius. He does make it work. And work perfectly.
And it comes back down to what Harry said before in terms of control. They are the best at it, the absolute best, and that's not necessarily because they always have the best players. Because even when you have the best players, if you've got a certain style of play, it doesn't mean you're always in control. Like if you're playing Klopp 3 years ago football, what you called rock and roll or whatever it was. You can't control games like Pep does, and that I think that is the difference in terms of these two squads. Obviously, there's investment as well, but I don't see why Liverpool can't keep up with City to a certain extent in terms of spending. You see Man United doing it. You can see to a certain extent Arsenal now can sort of extend their funds.
God, even Barcelona are buying Ferran Torres.
Yeah, even Barcelona.
And they're going to get.
And Morata.
Yeah. But I and obviously Chelsea as well. Like Tuchel's known for maybe he's quite pragmatic, but not on the level of Pep Guardiola. I mean, he's just next level. And we got really good managers in this league. Like I genuinely believe that we got really really high quality managers in the Premier League. It's just
the question we were asking not too long ago was who now is the worst manager, and
it's not obvious, is it?
It's not obvious, and even the worst manager has a decent CV.
I think a lot of the teams in the Premier League at the moment pose what you would call maybe a unique challenge, whether it's the set of players they've got or the manager they've got. Like a lot of the teams you see a very defined way of playing. Doesn't mean it's always going to be successful. So, for example, Southampton, right? They're a very, very high press team. They're not on the level of Liverpool doing it, but their style of play is very set in stone. They're going to do the same thing every game, and as a result, they can actually be awkward with it, but they can also get caught. We're living in an era where managers have their philosophy, and if you can't abide by it and adapt and ultimately bring the right characteristics and traits to it, then you're not going to play for them. I'm it's something that I like, and I think you mentioned Guardiola, give him a lot of credit for that. Klopp, I think, is similar in terms of the way that they've brought new ideas to the Premier League in terms of their way of playing every week. And it doesn't mean you can't adapt, a certain degree. As I said to Ali, I think Liverpool could have demonstrated a bit more pragmatism, a bit more control in that game. But like the level has just gone up. It's like Man City are like there, but everybody's getting dragged up like with them. Apart from maybe like Bonds and like Norwich and Newcastle, they're pretty awful. But
even Norwich have brought in a manager who is credible. Like Dean Smith is a credible manager.
Yeah, he's a good manager.
And also Norwich absolutely walked the championship as well.
Yeah. Norwich are weird, man.
That's why it's like. That's why when you look at it, like Norwich are a bit of a pushover, probably because they haven't got the quality of players to play the style that they're aiming for. But whenever they go down, they'll probably easily get promoted again.
Yeah,
and it is such a high quality league with top quality managers. And just to bring it back to the Chelsea game, like I thought like a lot of people were saying, is it a poor game? Those are the poor moments, or is it that it's just two top teams going at it with two great attacks that is causing these moments? And it's definitely probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But like in terms of Liverpool not being able to get control, it was down to the midfielders for Chelsea. Like
Yeah.
best,
And
for
down
Liverpool, I think.
and for Liverpool.
I think I said this to Ali before we started recording. Henderson and Milner were really poor for Liverpool, and I just think that it's a combination. If you look at the games that those two have played together since the season Liverpool finished with 97 points, won the Champions League, they've started something like 12 games against the top six and a couple in the Champions League against PSG, and they've only won one of those games that the two of them have played together. And in this game, it was quite evident that they just did not retain the. I mean, Henderson in particular reminded me of watching him against Croatia in that World Cup game. He was getting the ball,
just lumping it,
and instantly looking to play direct. And you just think, from an experienced player, the club captain, that's not good enough. That's not good enough when you're missing players and you get 2-0 up. You get into a great position, not actually playing that well on the day, really, but you find yourself 2-0 up in a game you've got to win. You got to just get your foot on the ball for 5 minutes and go, look, we're going to control this. We have 65% possession and we're going to make them work. And they just didn't do that.
I don't see why Milner starts over Keita in that game.
Do I.
I don't see it at all.
You see it, Alex?
I don't. I think
against
Milner's...
Kante and Kovacic, like, how can you not have Keita in that midfield? Like, you cannot let Henderson and Milner play Kante and Kovacic in terms of their energy. That should never happen.
Yeah,
that should never happen.
You can
can we praise Kovacic?
We can.
He's brilliant.
Oh, that goal is ridiculous. That goal is absolutely
someone
mental.
that never scores.
He never scores, and like I don't think I've seen him play. I think it's his best game.
He's
in
so
the
good.
by a country
His
mile.
touch was just exquisite as well. Like the whole game.
It was like two touches he done sort of back to back, and he plucked out of the sky the two of them, and like he was just terrific.
You know why I like his performance so much?
Yeah, why?
Because finally we might see the end of this ridiculous fetishization of Jorginho. I don't understand it for the life of me.
But the weird thing is, with the Jorginho thing, with Chelsea is I don't see us conceding 2 goals with Jorginho in that team. However, there's no chance we're getting those 2 goals before the half is up if we have Jorginho in that team, because we're so slow tempo. Like that game is completely different if Jorginho plays. It's probably a 0-0. If we're honest, it's probably a 0-0 because he doesn't add anything in an attacking manner. But we go back to the control idea. He does help Chelsea control games, and he was brought on, and that's again maybe a factor in why it ended in a draw. He just kills out all momentum, which is sometimes a really good thing.
Yeah,
a lot of the time, yeah.
But it goes towards the goal that was during the Champions League and and in the league last season, that you're trying to win 1-0, and then just keep control of it and keep them at arm's length.
Yeah. I'm baffled that we're not even hearing ripples of news about signing another midfielder. It's just mental. And now we've lost Keita, who we've been saying.
Is he?
He has.
I didn't know that.
We had to start Keita for either Milner or Henderson. Arguably Milner for me. But now Keita's gone to the AFCON. Essentially, all of our goals and assists, all of our goal contributions, and Mo Salah's gone.
That's a real problem for you guys. That's such a big
Is Elliot back at all?
Elliot's back in team training.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's massive for you.
That's massive for him. I don't know. If it's massive for Liverpool.
I think you're forgetting how good Elliot was at the
start. I'm not forgetting it. I just.
Obviously, he's not going to replace Salah, but
definitely.
I thought him and Trent were linking up so well.
Yeah.
Him and Salah were linking up really well. If he can get back into the form he was in, I think he'll definitely go some way to. He'll get goals and assists. I'm convinced. I think he was looking brilliant in the role he was doing before.
Yeah, but it's just what you're talking about. You're talking about the best player in the league.
Yeah.
By a country mile.
Well, no, not just that. The best.
But like
two forwards, maybe. Mane is. I know he's not been fantastic this year. But
he had his longest goalless
his...
drought with Liverpool.
Yeah, I
in
know,
that
but
Chelsea
let's not
game.
forget how good.
Definitely, yeah,
Mane
that's pretty
is.
obvious.
We're forgetting. Sorry, speaking of Mane, what do you think of the red card incident?
No, it's not a red. It's never a red.
I didn't think it was a red either. I couldn't get over it.
I was slightly confused.
This is something I'll back up later on in terms of talking about red cards. It feels too easy for teams to go down to 10 men in this modern age of football where, I would not want to see a game reduced to 10 versus 11 within 6 seconds for that. Yeah, it has to be a leg breaker, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I also think if it had been his actual elbow, but it was like his arm, and
even if it was his elbow,
forceful.
Even if it was his elbow, he didn't even look at Azpilicueta once. If his eyes were on the man the whole time, it doesn't matter.
To be fair,
the intent is but the intent is clearly shown by him looking at the ball. It doesn't matter if he knows him, because you have spatial awareness, but he clearly wanted to win the ball. If he's looking at Azpilicueta and jumped into him with an elbow, that's different.
I looked at
it's not even. I mean, is it even a yellow card? Like,
I thought
genuinely, I don't even think it's a yellow card.
No,
I thought it was forceful.
You can't hit someone in the face.
No, but he's only he's not.
It doesn't matter. You can't hit someone in the face. It's a yellow card. It's not a red card. It's a yellow.
I thought it was forceful. I didn't think it was vicious or or nasty.
It doesn't matter. I agree. It doesn't matter.
And powerful.
Yeah.
I couldn't get over that. Literally, across the board. Alan Shearer was saying it. That was definitely red.
It's not a red card.
I was there going I just couldn't get over it. I was like, what is this? I'm a Chelsea fan. I don't see this as a red. And then I thought the Mason Mount one could have been more of a red card.
No,
he got a lot.
I thought that was more of a red card than the Mane one.
George is shaking his head. I think it was. I think he's a lucky boy, Mason Mount. I really do.
Yeah, but Harry, you have your agenda against Mason Mount. Let's be honest here.
No. I think what it is.
Well. I was looking at going.
If you watch it, he loses his head for a second.
Yeah,
he
does.
Actually connects.
Yeah.
He doesn't really make a clean connection.
It's only because he's taking his leg away.
Yeah,
he does it in a way that he's making sure he's felt.
Yeah,
he does it. It sounds
knows
weird, but he does it. He does it smartly because
with Mane, he's just has his arm up and is trying to be forceful. I think with Mount, he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's lucky that he sort of doesn't make that much connection on purpose. But he knows exactly what he's doing.
He doesn't bring his foot back. He just pushes.
But he could have gently lifted his leg out. He knew.
Oh
he
could. Yeah, you're right.
He was trying to leave a little as little or the amount that he could without getting a red card. But I thought he was lucky.
I didn't think it was a red. But you know what? Dear listener, this conversation we just had about red cards and referees and decisions is exactly why the term clear and obvious is bullshit. Hold that thought. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
But just keep that in mind for the next kind of 15 minutes or so. But there's another huge topic of conversation around the elephant in the room. Exactly. Around the Chelsea Liverpool game just before
Kevin Kelleher starting incredible. I could not agree more. What a moment it was for Irish football.
To be honest,
brilliant.
From the highlights, what a performance! I applaud. There's this chance he saved from 6 yards out. It's not as easy as it looks going straight at him. He does actually have to react. Credit to him. He's stepped up well. Actually, Liverpool are suffering a bit from COVID now. There's talk about our cup games this week after we've been a little bit affected by it. Alisson had COVID. Van Dijk was absent for COVID before. I think Fabinho was as well. And now Liverpool might have their Carabao Cup game against Arsenal postponed because of the amount of COVID cases we have, which is surprising because supposedly everyone is vaccinated. Well, you can still get COVID while vaccinated, but it doesn't. It makes you wonder, is there any way that
go down that route?
Let's move it.
I know. It just made me think. But our FA Cup game on Sunday as well could be affected. But hoping just everyone is fine.
Do you guys reckon Lukaku's vaccinated?
Huh.
I just cause
That's an unfair question.
I just wondered because I don't know. I thought he might.
I reckon that's why he missed the game. To be honest, Harry. I think
yeah.
It's, just
okay. Seriously, then Lukaku.
Okay.
Lovely. What a story.
Who do you want to go first?
What content?
Yeah,
what content that is. Okay, go for it, Harry. George, just for any new listeners potentially out there, George is a stan of Lukaku. Like, during the Euros, it was established how much this guy loves Lukaku. And when Lukaku went to Chelsea afterwards, it was a moment. It was a moment for him. Big things were expected. But now he is out of the squad for interview stuff. George, talk us through it. Let me know your thoughts. Diffuse. What am I trying to say? Unload. It's a therapy session. Go.
Yeah. With this, I'm going to start with saying, if that interview had been 2 interviews, and I'll take you on this journey with me. If it had been this hypothetical journey, 2 interviews. The first interview was him going, "Oh, I'm not that happy because I'm, out of the squad and I'm trying to return from an injury, and the manager's trying a different style. I don't really fit into this with the fluid front 3 and Havertz as a false 9." And then separately, maybe a month later, whatever, he goes, "You know what? I also want to address the Inter situation. I really love Inter. One day I'll play there again. Now's not the right time, but I do feel bad about how it went and leaving." If that had separately happened, this would look so different. But he's gone in one interview from saying, "I'm unhappy," to "I want to play for Inter. I love Inter." Like, it's just insanity for a player who's deemed so intelligent. It's just so stupid.
And also the other wee bit was the fact that he was at Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Bayern.
That was
clubs.
Really
it was so badly done. And I've since heard, after listening to a lot of things about it, that even his people were unaware of the interview happening.
Yeah.
So he didn't even let his own people know, which just shows it's like. If you're not willing to trust your own people and telling them you're going to do this interview, you probably shouldn't be doing that interview. The people you're employing to make sure your PR is right, if you're not telling them, give your head a wobble, think twice. I don't think what he said was that bad.
No, I agree.
On the whole, I think the way he said it is terrible. I think if he said. The main problem I have with it is that he says he's looking to go back to Inter because he likes them. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
It's stupid of him to say it because he's always going to get backlash from Chelsea fans for saying that, because no fan really likes to hear that, especially if you're meant to be a boyhood fan. And so he said that, and then he suggested that he's going to go back when he's still at a decent level. He's 28 and he's on a 5-year contract. He'll be 33 when the contract ends. Maybe even 34 actually when the contract actually ends. So in my head, he's saying that he's going to leave within his contract. And that's the issue that he's saying. He's 6. If he'd even said, to be honest, I think there's a bit of an issue with him even saying he wants to go back to Inter so early into his Chelsea career. I feel
it's insane.
It's like
I get it. The thing is, I get what he was trying to like. I do understand that he wanted to address the Inter situation.
Yeah.
It's just how can he have come to that conclusion to take that interview?
It seems like but in the interview he's like prioritized what he's gonna say based on what the Inter fans wanted to hear over
not
what
Chelsea.
his actual club's fans want to hear.
Yeah.
And what the club that paid 100 million for want to hear. He just seemed to have his priorities in the completely wrong order. And like he didn't have to say that he wanted to move back. He could have explained the situation of the transfer, which is just like that's how he felt. That's the facts of it. He wasn't really looking for a move, which I have no problem with. If you're content at the club and you have to win a league title and everything's rosy, why would you want to move? But things didn't work out, and then the Chelsea offer came in, so he was like, "Oh, well, none of the other big three are coming in," which I also understand and is absolutely true. But it's not nice to hear. And also he hasn't been that. The other thing is he hasn't been that impressive for Chelsea due to injury and COVID. He's been lacking. Tammy Abraham scored more goals per game minutes played in his last season for Chelsea as Lukaku has done so far for Chelsea.
Yeah.
So my striker would never do this. My striker stay quiet. My striker stay professional.
No, what I would say finally, sort of, to maybe not necessarily just conclude the Lukaku point, but this doesn't mean the end of Lukaku at Chelsea. And I know a lot of people are blowing up and going,
of Chelsea fans that are
yeah, I know, but it just doesn't.
No,
Gerrard
I'd
said
agree.
he was forcing a move to Chelsea. Rooney forcing a move out of Man United. There are so many examples. There's so many examples of players trying to force moves. Players who are more valuable to a club than Lukaku and still going on and being able to be loved and respected by that team. Now, what I will say is I don't think Lukaku will ever go down as a Chelsea legend or anywhere near sort of the likes of even Diego Costa.
And Diego Costa done worse than this.
And Diego Costa did way worse. And well, actually, no, sorry, Diego. Well, I don't know if he did. I don't know. There's a falling out with Conte.
He refused to come back, and though it was like, there was more to it. But he actually had actions, whereas Lukaku's only.
But even so, if Lukaku, if Lukaku scores 15 goals this season and scores a winner in a Champions League or final, semi-final, whatever, this does get forgotten about. It really does, and maybe it'll never. Chelsea fans will never fall in love with him, but I mean,
I think it's the timing of it that's the big issue. It's like saying these things so early. He could have just said it in such a better way. Like this, there's some stuff that is true. Like the stuff about the Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and Barcelona, that is true. But you just don't say it.
Yeah, there's being honest, and then there's being candid, and then there's being just stupid.
It's like that's just gonna cause you problems, no matter what way you phrase that. And I personally don't have a problem with it, but it's just that it's like all people will obviously have a problem with that, and then you come across as disingenuous as being a lifelong fan sort of thing that he keeps saying, even though he's like if you're a lifelong fan of a club, like Chelsea are up there with those teams because they're your club. 100%. If they're not your club, then they're not in that bracket. But they're up there for me because I support Chelsea. But I see why for everyone else, they're not on the same level. But being a fan of a club brings them up to that level, in my opinion. That's the way I think about it, anyway. And and then he's come out and done so. He's now apologized to the players. And the coach, and that it's all been put to bed with Chelsea. He's also done a formal interview with Chelsea TV. They questioned him quite straight on, and were like, "You said that you wanted to leave. Could you explain that? You said that about the Bayern and Real Madrid and Barcelona. Could you explain that?" And then they also said, could you explain how you've settled into the club? And he touches on how he's unhappy with. He doesn't mention tactics, but he mentions that he's unhappy that his family aren't there, and that was the next minute. That's all he touched on in terms of unhappiness. With regards to wanting to move to Inter Milan, he sort of dances around it, and he says I've got a 5-year contract at Chelsea. and I want to win stuff with Chelsea. He says stuff which isn't mutually exclusive, wanting to leave within his
Yeah.
5-year contract.
Yeah.
He says
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
got a 5-year contract. He doesn't say he wants to complete it. He doesn't say he wants to stay longer than 5 years. He says that I've got a 5-year contract and I'm here to be successful. You can be successful with Chelsea within a year and go. So he says stuff that aren't mutually exclusive and doesn't sort of pin his what's the phrase, pin it to the mast or whatever. And then with regards to the Barcelona and Real Madrid and all that, he completely goes 180 on it and goes like, well, Chelsea are the team for me, and all the team was like, well, that's not what he
It's just
said.
not
And
true, though, is it? Yeah.
yeah, we all know it's not true, but you said it, and now it's sort of there's a bit of it wasn't a perfect apology. It couldn't have been a perfect apology in fairness
No,
to
yeah.
him. And then just we're touching on the tactics thing. I feel like he worded that was one of the worst things he worded about it, because he's sort of and I took it that he's just got high standards. He's always unhappy. If he's not playing, he's not going to be happy.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a fact of being a really ambitious top footballer. That in that situation, you're not going to be happy. The only thing I found annoying with that is that from all the reports, all the players and Tuchel weren't aware that he was unhappy, especially with the tactics. And also his wording is like the system has changed, or the manager wants to go with a different system. As well, the system one is the Champions League. What do you think you're going to be walking into? So it's like the way he worded it in the interview was, I was promised a different formation. I can't imagine he would have been. So, but that's my
I
rant
would like
over.
to hear Harry's sort of perspective on this
Yeah.
a little bit, because obviously you've had players like Sanchez and Van Persie, not necessarily the same kind of they've actually left the club, and that's why it's sort of a bitter relationship. But what's your perspective on this, like from the outside? Obviously, it's good for you as an Arsenal fan, but like, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, apart from the fact that I find it really, really funny that it's coming unstuck at Chelsea, like my reaction to it was, wow. Like I couldn't. I think partly because of the fact, obviously, the interview was done a few weeks ago. So in the context of some of those quotes, it just was like, well, you've just scored 2 against Villa, one and won a penalty, and then you've scored against Brighton. Like you're back in the team and playing well. I completely agree with the idea that, like, surely they've not said to him, you're going to come in and we're going to play whatever system suits you, because you've just won the Champions League, for God's sake. Like, he's supposed to be, yes, the icing on the cake. He's not supposed to be, you're coming in and we're building the entire team around you. Like, the winning team is there, one could argue. It's a really difficult one, because I think you need him over the course of this season to maybe not win the league now, I think that's gone, but certainly to have a successful campaign. He's by far and away your best forward, and there's a 5-year contract there. They're not going to write it off. Like, he's not going to be gone in January. He's not going to be gone probably in the summer. So they have to kind of knuckle down. I think Tuchel dealt with it really well. That's the one thing I would say. I think he's handled the whole thing in a good way, because we know the history of managers at Chelsea. And it would have been very easy for him to maybe get swallowed up in all of this, and ultimately he becomes the fall guy. And I think he's dealt with it really well, and it looks like he's going to be reintegrated into the squad for the Tottenham game and the League Cup. So, look, like, I wouldn't be happy with it. I completely understand that there are going to be Chelsea fans that still aren't happy with it, as Ferg was kind of alluded to. There's parts of that interview he's done that don't clear everything or anything up in terms of what he said. But ultimately he's going to be important for you for the rest of the campaign. So it's one of those where if he starts scoring goals again, I'm pretty confident that fans will be able to forgive him. Like, we do have short memories in that sense.
Yeah.
But if you're asking, like, my immediate reaction, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. It came out of nowhere. It was like a bolt from the blue.
No one knew about it. Not even his own team. But I'm assuming he told his team afterwards. Chelsea were not told about it until it came out, which I think is so unprofessional.
Oh, absolutely. It's all those
Uh,
things. It's
uh,
absolutely all those sort of things. It's been labelled. It's
uh,
shocking.
and like just that the first time that you hear about for your manager to hear about quite a big issue that you have, or like is on an interview that's not even in your own country, in the country that you're playing in. It's like sort of a second-handed interview, and it's being translated through. It's just like it's unbelievable. And then he talks about him being a professional in it, and
It's mad, isn't it? It's like you go and say all that sort of stuff that is the complete antithesis of professionalism, and then he tops it up by saying, "But I'm going to be professional." It's like, well, no, you're not, because then you wouldn't have invited these people into your house and aired this to the world. It, that was the funniest part for me of the quotes. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be professional. You haven't been, mate.
I know all of this.
But
I'm just thinking how badly treated Tammy Abraham was, and you did not hear.
I knew you'd find a way to get there.
You did not hear a peep about him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be backing Tammy even more. I know I say I can forgive Lukaku for this, and there's no better way than to score a good few goals against Tottenham over the next three games against them.
Yeah.
And that was your tabs on Tammy. Yeah, baffling stuff. But remember, dear listener, when we had this conversation before we talked about Lukaku, about red cards and yellow cards and refereeing decisions and subjectivity and clear and obvious. Harry, Arsenal 1, Manchester City 2.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I just want to give Stuart Atwell a bit of praise before we get started, because I think he made what is possibly the best third man run into the box that I saw.
Do you know what? Do you know what I thought? People overreacted on Twitter, and then I've looked it back from behind the goal.
You need to watch it.
Yeah,
like,
no,
the freeze frames don't do it justice.
Yeah,
like, don't get me wrong, he should still score. Like, there's no doubt about it. But you need to watch what he actually does. What I think he does to try and break this down, I think the ball's going in, and it obviously gets cleared off the line. For whatever reason, he wants to see for it, like himself, I think, if it crosses the line, even though that's the one thing the referee does not need a view of, is whether the ball crosses the line or not, with the exception of that, obviously, that one at Villa Park seasons ago.
Well, maybe the goal line technology was broken.
Right.
Who knows?
But generally speaking, across the 10 years or whatever goal line technology's been in place for, you don't need it. You don't need to, as a referee, see if the ball's crossing the line. So, I mean, what he is doing in there, I do not know.
At any point, the ref should just not be in the penalty, apart from
I've never seen it. I've never seen the referee as far up the pitch as that. Like, even when there's like, you know, free kicks or corners or stuff in and around the box, they're not standing in there amongst it. Like, you do not need to be on top of it. It's baffling. Funnily enough, I think that, among other things he did, notwithstanding the decisions in the game, which maybe I'll get to in a second, contributed towards the anger around his performance. So just to list a few things, Rodri absolutely clattered someone in the second half, and he gave a corner. He booked Gabriel for dissent. He booked Bukayo Saka for dissent. I mean, I don't know what Saka, of all people, would have said to him to constitute a booking. He, midway through the second half, took it upon himself to go over and tell off the ball boy, of all people, in the fucking ground. I mean, I hope that made him feel better. Like, it was just a woeful refereeing performance. And it doesn't surprise me, actually, when you have a look at his track record. This is a guy that gave a ghost goal over a decade ago and was then suspended for a catalogue of errors. And then he's refereeing Arsenal v Manchester City. I just do not understand it. And it kind of speaks to a wider point about referees in this country. The big decisions in this game, I think anyway, certainly the two penalties are marginal. I think they could have gone either way. And I think certainly our one, at least, if it's given, it's definitely not overturned. And I think because it wasn't given, it wasn't overturned. Even though there's angles where you look at it where it probably should have been given and it wasn't. I think their one, you can certainly make the case for it. I'm not going to argue that. He shouldn't pull his shirt. He dangles a leg. Silva's looking to win it. Like, no doubt in my mind. They're not getting any joy in the game. They hadn't had a shot on target to that point. He goes past his man. There's a leg there. It gets dangled. Runs up to it and he gets a shirt pull. Like, again, they could have not overturned that, in my opinion, and people would have gone, yeah, Silva's gone down easily. He's gone down looking for it. And so I think the frustration for Arsenal fans in this game is we played really well. I think we gave Manchester City their toughest test of the season. And I include games that they've lost and even the game they drew to Liverpool in that, in the sense that, and I know this is biased, I've not seen them outplayed to the extent they were for about 40 minutes in the middle of that game, between sort of 15 minutes into the first half and when they win the penalty.
Yeah,
we really played well and had them in a lot of trouble and probably should have scored more than the one goal we did score. And I think it's that, combined with the fact that on another day, their penalty doesn't get given, our penalty does get given, and then the red card is daft, it's immature, but I think the one thing you've got to do is look at it in context. They've just been given a really suspect penalty, for want of a better word. He's been booked for dissent. We've then missed an open goal. Tensions are running high in this game. The ball gets played to the halfway line. He body checks him. I'm not going to argue that's not a yellow card, but is it a second yellow card? It kind of speaks to a wider point.
I also thought that generally he'd let a few challenges go.
That's the other thing. It's the temperature of the game. When you've let Rodri foul a couple of times and Nathan Ake's fouled Saka a couple of times, he's not booked him. You've got to be consistent in the way you referee a game. Read the temperature of the game. He could have easily pulled him over and said, one more challenge and you're off.
Yeah, definitely.
He's just booked him for dissent. He got sent off for one foul. So it's like, look.
I thought it was definitely a cynical foul.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that it was daft.
And like you've definitely seen the game, but I don't know if it was up to the standard of foul that had been in the match already. I think
that causes problems though. If you do look at football like that, it does cause problems in terms.
That's what every game's ref like, Joe, and every any ex-refs will talk about that as well. That
every game has its temperature.
But I think there is a line, and Gabriel, in that instance, it was a very clear yellow card. Like it was a bad challenge. And
is it a clear second?
But then if you look at but it is in the context of the play. Like Man City won the break.
They weren't. He had 5 men behind the ball.
And there was
freeze frame.
It was a vertical. It was a vertical attack though. Like it was. By
the way, me arguing that it wouldn't have led anywhere is also me arguing he shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have done it. It was a ridiculous challenge. So I don't know why he did it. Yeah. But if you freeze frame it, it's not like they're getting a 3-on-1 if Jesus runs past him. If it goes on, I think they had De Bruyne on the left and we had 4 people behind the ball and Gabriel. My point is, red cards change games like so significantly. It then becomes attack against defence. And if we're looking at football through the lens of it's an entertainment sport, did that foul in itself constitute changing the rest of the 30 minutes or whatever was left in the game? And he misses a game after that. Does the punishment necessarily, is it merited given what's happened?
I don't know. I don't know if you're asking refs to take entertainment into it as well as all the other thing. I thought the main point was that I thought there's some other fouls that were let go that this one could have been let go.
That I agree with, to be fair.
That's the only leg I think this argument has to stand on.
Well, my point generally goes beyond the Arsenal game. It's something I've said before. It's about red card and penalties. Too many penalties get given in football matches nowadays, right? It's so easy to win a penalty in the box and get a free kick on the goal at a 79% chance of scoring or whatever it is.
Well, the game week previous had a multitude of penalties that weren't given because the game week before had so many soft penalties being given.
Well, so
there's referees in England, and I watched the Arsenal-Man City game. They do react to media attention. They do react to what the media has to say about games and adjust their decisions based on that. I fully believe this. And that's just unprofessional. Like, just do your job. Yeah. Just do your job. What's so wrong with just giving the decision for what the decision is, and your perspective will be different from another referee's perspective, and that's absolutely fine. You might see a foul as a yellow card, another referee might not see a foul as a yellow card.
You can't have that.
I know. You can.
Yes, so
that's what it's
have
supposed
that
to solve.
in general.
But
you can't have objectivity.
I know. That's exactly my point. You can't have objectivity. That's precisely it. If a referee sees a foul as a yellow card, then so be it. And then if another referee doesn't see it as a yellow card, so be it. Like, I don't know why referees are paying attention to any other influences outside just the game. Just referee the game. It's not difficult. It's not difficult.
A little bit of me, see with all the ref stuff, a little bit of me is thinking, people are saying it's too subjective and it needs to be more defined and more clinical. And I actually think it should actually go more the other way.
Yeah, completely agree.
And almost less rules and less definitions need to be put in, because so many things just can't be defined. So by trying to define stuff, you actually end up just confusing the situation
and eliminating common sense. Just going without a brain.
That's the phrase I would like to bring in more. Is that we get good refs in for a start, but then you just go, use your common sense, and we bring it back to you just get people that know football and know are able to read the temperature of a game, and ask them to referee the game.
And strangely enough,
and everyone knows what a foul is in their mind, and it's only whenever you bring in all these weird definitions you end up with these obscure fouls.
Yeah, the lines have been blurred by it.
And that's because I don't think you can define a lot of the things that are black and white. So,
and I think
just let them referee and go, is that a foul?
And
or
I think
not?
you can
and
have.
Decide.
No, but I think you can have VAR in that world, in the sense that
definitely.
In a subjective world, you can have VAR as well, because refs are going to miss stuff. They're going to have like catastrophic errors, and you can still have a subjective VAR to overturn things. But what it needs is, like we said, less scrutiny in terms of clear and obvious. Like, what does that even mean in that context?
That so much.
It's so stupid. And beyond that, I've lost my train of thought.
Hey!
Sorry,
clear and obvious has basically become the instrument by which you can justify inconsistency.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more laughable by the week when you're watching people like Peter Walton sit there and try to explain why certain decisions are reviewed and then certain other decisions aren't, and kind of find little intricacies and use this clear and obvious bullshit. Like, either it's a penalty or it isn't. So it's like, I don't care for clear and obvious at all.
I think it's as I made the point before when we talked about this with, I think it was just me and Ali that talked about this before. I was saying, like, it's so ridiculous that whenever the refs in the VAR room, you're not asking them, is it a penalty or not? You're asking them, is it a clear and obvious mistake?
What? Yeah.
So it's like the question should be simply, is it a penalty?
Is it a penalty?
Or not?
Is it not a penalty?
But they have to go, is that clear and obvious? And what does that mean? That phrase just makes
it's the worst. It's the worst part of VAR by far. It's become a joke.
As I suggested before, let's just get 3 refs in a room. If 2 out of 3 of them say it's a penalty, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
I honestly don't see what the issue is with that.
Big red button.
Yeah.
Big red button. I don't see what
the golden buzzer.
And we could also hire the old refs that were good, because all they have to do is fucking sit in a room. They don't need to run about. They can just use their eyes and their common sense that they were good at.
Get Malt Clannerberg back.
And I can't surprise there's too many retired referees that wouldn't mind picking up a £1 note or not, and they don't have to even run about. I honestly don't know why they wouldn't do that.
And I think the penalty situation sort of sums up the problem with VAR. The fact that they didn't look or didn't overturn the Arsenal one and then decided to overturn.
Do you know what it was, right?
That's incredible. That is genuine.
What I find incredible, right? If you watch the referee's reaction to the Arsenal penalty and the Man City penalty, he was much more definitive in the Man City one at absolutely wasn't. If you watch him, he does that to Bernardo Silva as he goes down because he clearly felt like he died. With the Arsenal one, and I could be completely wrong, but I'm certain this happens in some instances where the referee isn't sure and hence goes, okay, I'm going to let the VAR have a look at it and they can decide if it's a penalty. But they're not then deciding if it's a penalty. They're deciding if you've made a clear and obvious error. But you weren't sure about the decision you made in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's like a vicious circle. You're waiting for them to overturn you, and they're not overturning you because it's not clear and obvious. It's just a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Ran over. We played pretty well. That's the one thing I would say. We played pretty well.
Arsenal were brilliant.
And watching, certainly Man United, who we'll come on to in a minute. Spurs are playing well. That will be a big game against Spurs in our next league game. I think that could go a long way to determining where that last top 4 place goes, because watching Man United at the minute, like, it's only projection. You could say that they're going to get better because what they're producing is terrible. We played really well. Like, I don't think you can produce that performance against Man City unless everybody's buying in and everybody knows their role. So it's encouraging.
And of course, it's gutting for Arsenal, but at the same time, like Harry said, losing against Man City, you'd probably predict that before the game anyway. This isn't a major blip at all.
No, they will beat Tottenham, they'll beat Man United, and they'll beat West Ham, like, more than likely. So that's that fixture done, out of the way.
Arsenal played well. Man United didn't play well. That must have felt well. Felt good, Harry. What a bizarrely disjointed performance that was. That game I did watch.
It's not the only one, though. I have to say, Rangnick's come in, he's had 5 games now, and 3 of them they've been really poor in. And, okay, that was the first one they've lost, but they've played 3 awful teams, 1 average team, and 1 pretty good team in Wolves. That was their hardest game they've had so far.
Yeah.
But they were absolutely schooled. I mean, I don't know why he keeps going with this 4-2-2-2. It's particularly against a team that's just going to play really wide and use their wing backs.
I find it bizarre.
I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me when they have wingers / like wide forwards that want to play in and around the penalty box, and he's playing them as like playmaking midfielders, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
they all look confused. There's no doubt in my mind. They look confused by the system that they're being asked to play. It doesn't suit many of them at all.
And to expect Greenwood and Rashford and Sancho and these players to track back, maybe that culture and that will change for them, and they'll have to learn that role. But that's not going to happen, and you're not going to get results out of it in those positions. It's just not going to happen.
Can I
also
go on?
I was just quick. I also think that it's just strange that he's the interim manager, so he's kind of setting certain foundations and ideologies for the next manager.
He's going to be a big part of picking the next manager
as well. Yeah, but I find it strange that he's going for this formation, which is quite unique for him.
Yep.
And I don't think many other managers play it. And maybe sure, there's certain there's pressing that you can carry on from it. But it feels like for an interim manager that's not guaranteed to get the job, it feels weird to be trying to implement such a unique and niche formation that as we've said, I don't really think it suits as many of the players. I don't think there's not many players in that formation that you go, that suits them perfectly. Everything they're being asked to do, that suits perfectly. I don't know if it suits any of them, and it's kind of getting them all to sort of meet halfway in what they like to do, and as a result, I don't think really anybody's in a perfect position. But it feels weird that an interim manager is doing something that's so kind of radical in terms of formation tactics. Whenever someone else could come in and it's likely going to be a different formation. I just thought he would have went for more conventional sort of formation. Maybe even went for like whatever formation Ten Hag, Brendan Rodgers, or Pochettino is doing, and then just do that or play that and then implement some of his ideas. I don't know. It's just a strange one for me.
I'm gonna slightly disagree with the three of you. And to respond
they played well.
No, that's not. That's why I say partially.
You don't disagree with me then. I said they were terrible.
Yeah, they were horrendous. The application was bad, but to first respond to Fergal's point, it is a unique formation. And the general point about new managers with completely new systems is that if the players had been playing a completely different style, it will take time for them to adapt, especially when they've been playing under Solskjaer, who wasn't a good coach. I think that's pretty clear, and just like didn't have a tactical philosophy in place. I don't think Solskjaer ever established his fundamentals, his tactical, philosophy ever. So this set of players now don't have, as like a group of 11 players, as a group of players on the pitch together. They don't have a solid idea of how they should play since the Solskjaer days, and they are learning the Ranić stuff, like the Ranić system. The 4-2-2 is unique, but it's been used before in Germany, and that's the nature of any new system. Antonio Conte reintroduced the three at the back that nobody else was doing. It gained results. A lot of teams are now playing three at the back, Chelsea included now, but particularly in that season, everyone, pretty much more than half of the teams were influenced by that. I think it has its merits, this system. The problem is personnel. The problem is that you have the front four, like the 2-2, the last 2-2, Jadon Sancho, Greenwood, particularly Ronaldo, and to a lesser extent Cavani, don't press. So
Cavani's good.
Cavani does, and that's why I say to a lesser extent.
He's 35. I mean,
well, that's the other thing.
He presses well for 35.
Yeah, and the other thing is the first two, the midfield, the midfield base, Matic and McTominay, just aren't. That was always going to end badly when Neves or João are on the other side. Nemanja Matic just doesn't have legs, and McTominay's honestly, I think I've made up my mind now.
Dreadful. It's dreadful, mate. I pretend
Fred is better than McTominay. Fred
awful.
Yeah.
But I think
go on.
Yeah, go on. No, you do your point. I wasn't gonna say anything new. I was just gonna say I think it has its merits. It will take a lot of time to implement. It won't be under Ranić this season. The reason why, and that's actually one more thing I wanted to say. The reason why he is playing his system is that because it looks like to me now that this consultancy role that he's going to play with Man United is a pretty influential one. So he wants to get managers in who will apply the same or similar stuff.
But name one.
Well, I can't name one.
No, but hold on.
Because
that's my point, though, Ali.
Well, it's Ranić's job.
For a Man United manager, you cannot go. It's gonna be one of the top managers. It is.
I think also we're ignoring the fact that Man United have assembled a squad which, if not in their performances on paper and what they're getting paid per week, is supposed to be a squad which is ready to win now. It obviously isn't. They're nowhere near. And they've reached a point where they are going to have to accept, and it looks like Rangnick is accepting that they've got a squad that is not suited and cohesive in any way, shape or form. It doesn't matter what play style you want to go for. It's an imbalanced squad and it needs blowing up and starting over. And so my suspicion is he has his philosophy. He's going to keep playing it, and they're going to work out who can and can't adjust. Now, the problem with that is they need to be in the Champions League.
Yes,
if you look at the players they've got there, they cannot go into the Europa League with the likes of Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes, and obviously Cavani's going to leave at the end of the season.
Ronaldo in the Europa League would be funny. I want to see it.
Well, he won't. He'll go.
He won't. He'll go. Yeah. And it's not just that.
That's fair.
And that might be a good thing, by the way, but they certainly weren't planning for him to come spend 1 year and get them into the Europa League. I mean, I mean,
more
Man United and planning just don't belong in the same
There's more
sentence.
players as well, and it's not just the players. But you look at Varane. Varane's not going to want to play in the Europa League. You got Pogba. Pogba is one of the most arrogant footballers in the world. He is not going to play another year of Europa League football. He's probably already gone. In a lot of minds at Man United. Sancho is such. I can't believe how lazy that man is. I don't know what if he played like that in Dortmund. I can't imagine he did. But the fact that not even Ragnick can get a performance out of him is just incredible. And then finally, you've got to think, well, can they? I mean, it's Man United, so potentially they can, but can they attract the manager? Like Brendan Rodgers, would probably go, but is that the manager you want? Really? I mean,
they're
going to end up with someone like Wagner or something from that used to manage Huddersfield. We're going to end up with one of these niche, used to manage the Dortmund second team managers.
Yeah. On projection, and this could age absolutely terribly, right? But at least with Arsenal and Tottenham, you kind of get the sense that both are moving in the right direction, and they've done it earlier than Man United. Man United have faffed around with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer until November, and then they go, oh shit, he's not it, and they've messed around and go, okay, we'll give this guy till the end of the season, then he's going on a consultancy role. Well, what if he's absolutely rubbish, and they have a terrible season and finish 6th or 7th?
Nobody's going to want to listen to him.
This is the thing, right? And then he's the guy that's deciding who they get as manager and who they recruit.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily blame him if Man United are rubbish, but like you said, it's the perception, isn't it? It's what it looks like from the outside. This squad clearly cannot play a pressing style 4-2-2-2, and yes, I understand that well, what do you do? Do you therefore continue with the philosophy now and afterwards as well? Do you change it for the short term and then change it for afterwards? Either way, no matter what you do, or do you just play how Solskjaer used to play and play to the squad as in individuals? Either way, I've got to get rid of half this squad in terms to play a certain style or somehow convert them, which I don't see happening. Or you've got to completely give away all of your philosophies, in which case there's no point hiring the manager you hired in the first place.
I agree. I think there's so many good points there, and that's the thing where it's like it's an interim role. Yeah, he's going to have a long-term lasting effect. I just think it's gone like I think there's a middle ground he could have gone for. He can still do press, and for me it's the formation. It's the 4-2-2. It's just like they have too many like sort of number 10 players, or like they kind of need a third man. Like to not have. I think I think the likes of Bruno should be focused around. I think Greenwood should be focused around, and he's trying to phase Ronaldo out.
I agree.
Because if there's one thing that's going to be going forward, it's going to be pressing, regardless of who the manager is. They're going to want the press. So I think Ronaldo's out regardless, and he should be used as a super sub, and that's his best role. So like with those things, I'm just there looking and go. You can still press. I think he should be going for a 4-3-3 of some kind, either with a 10 or with a DM. And because it's gonna be, I still think it's gonna be Brendan Rodgers, Ten Hag or Pochettino. It's gonna be one of those three, providing they get top 4, as we've said. And I think you could have got top 4, but he's going too far without a pre-season. This is a lot to do with all the egos, and also he hasn't got the reputation really to command those egos. So he has to impress them on the training pitch with results to then be able to get him to do what he wants to do. He has to earn that trust first, and it's a lot to ask.
On that as well, did you see the Luke Shaw interview where he sort of
that's what I was hearing.
Clearly the manager hasn't impressed. So after 5 games,
it shows what a mess they're in though as a playing group, doesn't it? They are all over the place. They don't know what they're doing out there, and that's not just the manager. Obviously, a big part.
Yeah, it's not Ragnick's fault, and I think getting someone like him in to do long term is the right thing to do, and it is going to be. I think these are the growing pains of doing the right thing, but I just think there could be a few less growing pains and still be able to get top 4. And I think they could they measured a wee bit more and find that middle ground to get top 4 this year. At the moment, I just don't see it.
Well, nothing's changed in the sense that if you think of that last game under Solskjaer, they lost 4-1 at Watford, and David De Gea's come out after the game and done an interview and said, we didn't know what we were doing out there. So this guy's been there for the best part of a month now. He's had 5 games. I think that's a fair time to start assessing him. I hate to give Tottenham praise, but after 5 games, like, they were looking better in terms of what they were doing under Conte. And I know the fixtures have been kind to them. They've had a lot of home games. And
well, Man United haven't played anyone
away games
of note.
But Man United have played some poor teams there, and not impressed. And there's no reason, as I said, and I'll repeat it again, and I know I'm biased, if you're looking at it at the moment, Man United, Tottenham and Arsenal, there is no reason other than projection to think they'll finish in the top 4. They've not shown anything this season to justify that at all.
Aye, the first game for Man United against a top 4 opposition will be very interesting. There's a Mirror article that came out today that says 11 players want to leave.
This is the other thing, right? And they've made their own bed with that this season in terms of the same players have played a lot of the games. So you've created kind of a disharmony amongst the playing squad.
If Van de Beek's gone, here we go.
Mate, he's not started a league game this season. If you're him, and I'm not saying he's anything special, I've not watched nearly enough of him. But if you're him and you're watching Fred and McTominay thinking up the gaff every single game, and Fernandes has been terrible this season as well. Like, let's call a spade a spade. He has been awful, and he starts every single game. And you're gonna get people like him going, well, what am I doing here if I can't get on the pitch? And so
it's 2 managers as well that have this similar opinion that he, the other players are better than him as well. Which I find it funny because by the end of it, Van de Beek was the answer for Man United just because he was the only option that they hadn't tried, and he had like 1 or 2 good appearances off the bench. And now even this new spanking manager with all these crazy ideas, even he's going, yeah, not for me, son.
Matic, he picks a 36-year-old? He might not be that old, but I think
he moves like he's 36.
He's old. He's
old. Very slow. I think he has a pace of 4 or 5 on Football Manager, which is quite accurate. The Van de Beek one, it was a mistake. It was a mistake, and I thought so since the start.
I think it's a mistake. Well, I don't know what he's
from all parties, by the way.
Yeah,
from like
parties.
Even his agent. I don't know why his agent thought it would be a good move for it. Probably because of the finance involved. It's probably
unless Man United have done him
high rage.
I don't know though, because I can see why wouldn't you go? Right, yeah, I can fit into this team ahead of Fred or McTominay. Like,
no, but even at the time.
At the time, he was looking to get in of Pogba and Fernandes.
No, because you can't. Yeah.
It was Pogba at the time. Think about it. They were playing a 4-3-3 with Pogba, Fernandes, and McTominay. So he wasn't going to get into the starting 11.
Yeah.
I at the time raised an eyebrow at that signing because I thought Fernandes is almost never injured, and when he's not injured, he plays. And I didn't think they'd stay in a 4-3-3. They didn't. They went to a 4-2-3-1, and it was McFred in midfield. Bizarre on all parts. He shouldn't have gone there, and they shouldn't have signed him. Not for
unless he was promised something completely different. It's ridiculous it's just on him. It's just as much on him as it is on United, in my opinion.
The other bizarre part is Phil Jones having the best game out of the Man United squad.
I thought he was good.
He cost them the goal though.
Yeah, it was clearance.
Yeah, it was.
I agree, he was good. Don't get me wrong.
He made a tackle on the left back on the edge of the box. I was watching with my housemate, and all we see is this like shot of red go across the screen, tackle in. The camera wasn't.
He was excited.
The camera wasn't quite right, and I we couldn't quite see it. And we're like going, is that Matic? No, it's too fast for Matic. Is it? Who else was on that side? Wan-Bissaka. Well, wrong skin color for Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but that can only leave Phil Jones, and he's come from centre back. What the hell is going on there? If that's it, I think he's Ragnick's man. I think he might survive.
Start of every game.
It was honestly better than anything I've seen Maguire produce all season.
100%.
Oh, that's a good point.
100%.
That's a good point.
Why are we back in
That's a
next
spicy
game,
take. That is a spicy.
No, it's not
one.
spicy at all.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I like
It's
it.
a calm take. It's a calm
It's a calm take. Yeah, it's a calm take. I love it. I actually agree with it. Now we've said it. Okay, so that's Man United. Wolves, though, credit to them.
Yeah, very
like
good.
they controlled the whole thing. Bruno Lage's post game interview, by the way.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was. I wish more managers can give
Yeah, I mean,
those.
it's good, but I think you've.
I didn't hear it.
You didn't
Yeah,
hear
he
it. He was.
basically talked
He
about
walked
how-
through the tactics of the game.
He was
essentially.
explaining the tactics, which, like, don't get me wrong, it's refreshing. I thought it was quite funny how people were kind of drooling over it. Like, you're
Yeah, it wasn't
you're a
that
football
good.
coach,
It was
Ali.
good.
Like,
It was
it's
alright.
nothing-
It was.
There's nothing like
That's
exceptional
what
in
always
you say.
happens whenever you get some decent punditry. Whenever
You know who's the best at it, Fergal? He got the Tottenham job because of it. Mourinho, when he did that, like,
Yeah.
3 months in the Sky Sports studio with
Yeah.
Souness and Roy Keane, he decided, fucking hell, this guy knows his
Yeah,
stuff.
this guy knows it.
He
Yeah.
sat next to two guys that...
It's like it's like hiring Gary Neville because of his punditry at Valencia.
Yeah, and then you go, oh shit, actually, like,
Any manager that's
Well,
just
probably wasn't
just
because
out
of
of the top
George,
level, and like someone like that's why Emma Hayes looks head and shoulders because she's in the game.
She's a manager.
at the top level.
Yeah.
She's currently doing it, so she knows all the current ideas and is on it. And
Yeah.
it's just like showing how intelligent she is. So any manager that has the honesty to break down their tactics, we're always just left gobsmacked and going,
That's
"Oh
a
my god, what
really
is
good
this?"
point. Why do we have players in punditry over ex-managers?
That's a good point.
I've
Why?
never understood
Yeah.
that, to be fair.
I guess no. To be fair, we all know why. It's for views and online clicks. And,
No, but like,
dunno.
there's never been much of a. I know, like, Roy Keane and Souness managed a little bit, but
Roy
like,
Keane was quite good, but
there's never been. There's not a balance between it, is there?
no.
It might be for me. It might be that by the end of your management career, one, you're really old, a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
And two, that you're probably a bit too mellowed. So you're not gonna give like a spicy hot take.
Oh, they'd much rather.
I
have
nearly
Roy
said a new
Keane,
word
you
there.
know.
Hicey, hot and spicy.
Hey,
But
into the JAFP
no,
dictionary or bingo card it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'd imagine that might be the reason. It's like that by the end of your management, like you'd be looking at someone like Roy Hudson to come in.
Steve Bruce. Well, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Ronaldo's quite good, isn't he? I don't know why I went Irish there. It was terrible.
Yeah, that was actually your best Irish accent you've done, George.
I'm trying to do it, Geordie.
Next time you do an Irish,
Oh,
aim for Steve
no.
Bruce.
Oh, what a nightmare. All right. Well, that's punditry could do more with more in-depth analysis because honestly, watching Souness talk is
always crying out.
super exotic.
I one thing I always thought was just quick on note on that. One thing I always thought is like, why isn't there like we have all these like on the BBC you have all these extra shows, MOTD extra, all these here. Why isn't there just a really really nerdy football show?
Oh, that's Monday Night Football, but it's a little bit
No, it's
sporadic,
not.
and
It's not.
No.
I guess that's
the
the version of it. But
Like I'm talking like a proper nerdy one where like the coach's voice sort of thing, except, you know, with a bit more production and like as opposed to because it actually goes the other way a lot of the time with the BBC. They have like match of the day, and then the match of the day one with Jermaine Genius is actually just a more dumbed down version and more about banter and sort of pop culture within football. Let's go the other way. Let's have a really nerdy match of the day, and just put it on online. Don't worry about it. I'll watch that. All the nerds will watch that. Let's have a bit more of that.
Put it on iPlayer.
yeah.
Yeah.
One more shout out. That's Jose Sa, who's been a bit transformative for Wolves.
Yeah, he's good. Funniest part about Jose Sa, Gary Neville gave him his player of the season on Match of the Day. Not Match of the Day, Monday Night Football. I'm absolutely convinced he's not watched him all season. Like, if you listen to his justification for giving it to him, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like, the Wolves have been pretty good this season. They've not conceded many goals. Obviously, he's been great. It's like, yeah, you've not watched him, Gary, have you? You have not watched one match of Wolves this season.
He probably hasn't gone to FB Ref.
Yeah.
The more I hear Gary Neville talk, the more I actually think he's less and less interested in punditry, and he's more
Yeah.
interested in becoming his own sort of platform interviewer, I also think he might become an
Interesting.
MP or try to be an MP.
I agree with that. You can see with the Sky Sports podcast that he does, or like in like 20-30 minute interviews with after each game. Have you seen one of them?
Yeah,
and they're all
with
talking,
Martin
and
Tyler.
that's he's good in that. He's actually genuinely gives some good insight, but I think he's getting less and less. And I think he's admitted it as well. He's watching less and less
I've
games.
heard him sort of.
And he's
you
not
can tell
as interested
Carragher
because he
watches
was
a lot
good.
more than Neville,
The thing is,
A lot
Gary
more
Neville
in-depth.
Neville used to be pretty on it, and his analysis was pretty good. And
Yeah, he
recently,
doesn't watch a lot now.
I think he has dipped massively in terms of his commitment to.
I think he's fallen out of love with it, especially with all the analysis. I think for someone like him, he has a lot of interest, and I think he seems to. I feel like I get the feeling he like sort of go in and out of interest and stuff like that, and if his heart's not in it, he won't do it fully. And I can imagine someone like him just being sort of getting to the point where you end up just everything comes in circles, and it's talking about the refs again. It's talking about different changes. It's talking about diving. It's talking about all the rubbish that ends up coming round and round in a circle, and nothing really changes, and nothing really gets done about it. So I'd imagine for something like that, he's not really that interested. And when it comes to the big issues where he can impact change, like the Super League, you can see he's full of energy.
Yeah, he's
I think he's probably more interested in stuff where he can actually implement change and stuff like that. That's my outside look at Gary Neville without actually knowing
inside Gary Neville's mind without actually talking
without
about Gary
knowing
Neville.
about him. I
There's your
don't know
podcast.
his background that well at all, really, in the grand scheme of things.
NBC have an inside the mind series that they just interview players and former managers and current managers and all that. One with Gary Neville is required. But going back to Jose Sa, he's there's debate often about what metric to use to evaluate goalkeepers, and it's a little bit difficult. But like he's 90th percentile or above for 3 really important ones, like post shot XG minus goals allowed. So post shot expected goals compared
and
to
he's
the.
first on that.
He's 90th percentile for that.
All right, okay.
He's
So this season.
So
for
he
this
is
season.
good
Sorry, for the last
top
365
10%.
days for the last year.
Okay.
Save percentage, he's 99th percentile, 81% saved. Goals against less than 1 a game, 0.91, 91st percentile. And then you look at this season, and he's second behind David De Gea in that post-shot XG minus goals allowed metric. So essentially how many goals he saved over the season. And per 90, he's saving about a third of a goal.
He's good.
He is
very
fantastic.
good, He's been a good signing for.
Yeah. And to end this, we are going to take a look at the radical and dramatic changes in just another fantasy pick. Fergal, it's a tight race now. But I guess after this game week, it won't be anymore. But hold this thought. So you picked Bukayo Saka, and he got 16 points. And then
this is 2 game weeks ago. Just
2
for
game weeks ago.
Listening.
Exactly.
We're a wee bit behind.
Yes, because we didn't record for a few weeks, so we're kind of catching up now. Here we go. 8 week. So Saka on 16 points, and then you forgot to pick the next pick. Why did you forget? What have you done to yourself?
Just really silly. And so I've missed out on at least 2 points. I think I would have got at least 2 points, and I'm probably still just about been in the lead. Yeah, annoying, but we move.
Well, Saka got 16 to be fair to him, so I guess that makes up for it. And then
Norwich coming in clutch again for me.
I had picked Cristiano Ronaldo. That was against Newcastle. He got a point, and I swore never to get Cristiano Ronaldo on my fantasy team ever again. The guy is, in fantasy terms, pretty useless.
Right.
And then Human Son got 6. And then for this game week, which still isn't over in fantasy terms, I have Mikel Antonio, who scored 14, and then still scored 7. I have him captain on my actual fantasy team, which is why I say 14. He has 7, and then he's playing against Norwich, so he's hoping he'll get some more. Fergal, you have DCL, who missed a penalty.
And I think my thinking is good, and I have him in my actual fantasy team. I think he's gonna come, and he's gonna come back, and he's got a decent run of games. So
yeah,
look, he missed the penalty, but he got the penalty. So the idea was good, but just his execution has let me down a bit. And he's still got one more game this week, I think, unless it's been cancelled.
Well, anything can get cancelled nowadays.
Yeah.
But George, moving on. Watkins with 2 points, and then Human Son with 6 points. Happy with that?
No.
Cool. Harry, Human Son with 8 points 2 game weeks ago.
Harry quietly just going about his business.
He's trying up. I told you. It's not over yet.
Fair. When you're at the bottom, there's only one way you can go from there. You can't go down. You can only go up.
There was a point where it could get worse.
But you're still at the bottom.
Yeah,
but not by much. Not by much.
Yeah.
And this week he has Jared Bowen, who does still have another game week. So next week we're going to catch you up on those scores. Fergal has DCL, myself I have Antonio, George has De Bruyne, and Harry has Jared Bowen.
Have another game.
Which didn't have because I wasn't aware of that.
Neither was I, but I got lucky and picked Bowen. That was complete luck.
Wow.
It's FPL.
Do your research, guys. Do your research. Go on a fantasy app.
Because I'm pretty convinced I've been absolutely boned on some of my picks where they've been injured at the last minute or haven't played. Or Pep Guardiola's played FPL roulette, and it's just like I've been shafted with some of these picks. So
well, Harry,
get their luck.
The fact that you had performed so badly and now you didn't know Jared Bowen had a double game weeks tells me why you had performed so badly. Take that as you will. But the current standings before this game week are... I'm now at the top with 75, which will increase. So I'll crack the 80 plus after the Mikel Antonio points are added. Fergal's on 72 now, but that difference might just increase. That 3-point difference. So there was a point where Fergal got ahead of me, and I've now kind of regained the lead, but I'm not very secure now about this lead. It's a tight one. And then for third place, for the Europa League spot, it's George on 56. Harry's climbing up. He's on 45 now. Who'da thunk it?
Mate, it's all right. There's only one way up.
Yeah, there's only one way up. All right. That was a juicy one. And to end this, seeing as we've been recording for an hour and a half, and seeing also that this is the first episode of 2022, I wanted, gentlemen, to take your thoughts or know one thing that you hope for in football in 2022. One hope you have for football in 2022. One thing you want to see happen or don't want to see happen. Let's start with Harry.
Yeah,
What's something you want to see happen? Or don't?
Those pitch side monitors, you know, those little screens at the side that the referees occasionally trundle over to and have a look. Yeah, I want them burned at the stake because it is the most meaningless act. It kind of adds to the entertainment pantomime feel of VAR at times. When the referee goes over to the screen and you just know they're going to change the decision every single time. Like, it's just a procession at this point. Get rid of them. I've had enough of it. Like, they pretty much never stick with their decision. I think it's happened once of all the times the referees have gone over. They've stuck with their original decision. So, you know, I know I've whinged a lot about referees in this particular podcast. But yeah, get rid of those fucking monsters. I don't know.
Replace it with, you know, the X Factor style.
Yeah.
The three judges.
Buzzers.
Buzzers.
Three people at the side of the pitch with buzzers like that. The three judges. Yeah.
That's what we want.
And then VAR, because people complain about it not being transparent enough. You don't know what's going on in the ground. You'd fucking know what was going on then. You know what I mean? Although, funnily enough, I've not seen this
people
happen.
be chucking stuff trying to hit the buzzer.
It's worth saying, right? It's worth saying, just a little bit of insight.
Get a soccer ball.
I've not seen this happen in a long time. They actually showed the Man City penalty on the big screen in the ground.
Yeah,
And mate, it got the reaction was fucking. It was great.
Were you at the game, Harry?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah,
I imagine.
I always wonder whose decision that is, because they obviously used the TV camera footage, but then
but you're not supposed to show anything.
Yeah, exactly.
For that reason.
Someone in Arsenal Stadium.
I don't know if someone just made a really pointed
cut
gesture.
away. Yeah. So it's obviously like up to someone that's employed by Arsenal to cut away at that moment. I'm guessing. So like I'm surprised that doesn't happen more when they're just like,
so
that's alright. I'm gonna let this one run.
Do you know what? Speaking of video reviews, I actually have an anecdote about this to do with Egypt. So remember the Confederations Cup? Those had its last edition, 2017, like the champion of each continent playing in a tournament, and the World Cup champion. Egypt in 2009, we were playing Brazil in the first game. We gave them a game, like we were better than Brazil. We drew level. We were 3-1 down after the first half, and drew level 3-3, and looked like we could potentially win it until the very last minute. It just didn't happen. And then remember Lucio? I think it was his name.
Brazil centre back.
The Brazil centre back, Inter Milan. Yeah. Yep, him. A corner gets played in. He smashes a header. Ahmed El Mohammadi is on the line. El Mohammadi, yeah. The
whole
right. Yeah, the whole city, ex-Hull City, ex-Aston Villa, him. Yeah. He's on the line for the corner. He's at the far post, and it hits his arm, and then it's cleared out for another corner kick. Howard Webb was the referee, by the way. He gives a corner, and then the massive appeals for penalty, like absolutely massive. The fool that is Ahmed Mohammadi goes down and pretends that it hit his face and that he's got a concussion because of it, which just gets the conversation going and going and going. Like, how could he get injured with a header? Like, that's what the Brazil players are now saying to Howard Webb. Like, it's just illogical. The ball just hit his face. Get on with it if that's the case, but he's pretending. What they did then is replay a video footage of the foul on the screen.
That's not allowed, surely.
Howard Webb then gave a penalty. He reversed his decision. That's obviously a decade before VAR.
I didn't know, but because I remember there was a World Cup game in 2010. It was Mexico-Argentina. There was a goal that was miles offside, and they accidentally showed it on the big screen. Looked up, and they obviously knew the decision was wrong. But you can't overturn, like, if you've given a goal like that. You can't just look at the screen.
But famously, the Zidane headbutt was only given because one of the fourth officials saw it on the monitor and told the ref. Because no one saw it. It was actually the first time any sort of video a referee. The only person that saw it was Buffon. It was from a goal kick, so everybody's looking at the goalkeeper. And Zidane turns around and heads him. So Buffon was the only one looking outwards and saw it, and it was only because of the fourth official being on the TV camera. So, and so technically the Zidane headbutt should have actually not been given as a red card
at the time. That Al Mohammadi incident was a ripple in Egypt long before VAR. Of why don't we just introduce video reviews then? But that came to my mind immediately when you said Xhaka saw it on the screen. It was on the screen. Back to the question though, George. What's a hope they have for football in 2022?
A hope for football.
One thing you want to see or don't want to see happen.
Well, I'd rather Man City not win a treble. That's probably one thing. But no, I guess to go down the refereeing route as well, I'd actually like to see referees have more post game interviews. I just think that'd be so interesting to hear their thoughts on why they make decisions.
What a shout.
I think it would humanize them a little bit and go, okay, right, from his perspective, I can see why that subjective decision was obviously made in that situation. So I wouldn't mind that. Yeah.
I don't think that helps.
I don't like it.
Because I
It
think
has a very American feel to it.
I think the majority of them will come across like pricks, and it wouldn't help them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the truth. Yeah, but I think a lot of referees are pricks, so that's the problem.
That's
also
dangerous.
think,
That's
I
dangerous
also think
territory.
that you'd end up hearing the same sort of PR shit
That was
answer.
absolutely right.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah, I would. But yeah, yeah.
I also think that you'd end up just hearing the same old PR answer, and you wouldn't actually, because they wouldn't want to be honest, because they'd end up getting backlash. You'd end up going against them. And I think
No,
it would
you're 100% right. They are absolute pricks.
Can you imagine Mike Dean be given a microphone?
There is one more thing actually. I know I've taken up like 3 different suggestions now. The chant attack has to be banned. Never to be done again ever. It's the worst. Like Man United fans have done it so many times. They were 1-0 down against Wolves and they were chanting attack. Like the players and the manager hadn't have thought of that idea before.
Yeah, it's like the
oh
get
my
creative.
God, what? Like, come on,
managers.
It's like bollocks. Right?
Yo,
sorry.
If you attend a basketball game or an MLS game here in the States,
they say that.
They say defense, they say attack, they say.
Like what?
Yeah, our chanting is pathetic.
I think if that happens, then
have any more disdain for them.
Yeah, people need to get banned from the stadium. Yeah.
Yep. Before you chanting attack. Well,
wait for the World Cup 2026. Fuck me.
Oh yeah, you'll have people wearing eagle masks. Oh god, yeah.
Oh, don't even.
Excited for it though. I might attend a World Cup game then. That's
there you go.
The only opportunity I have. Fergal, what's one thing you want to see, or don't?
You've mentioned World Cup, Sally.
I have.
And it is a World Cup year. Lest we not forget. And me being Mr. International, my hope is that England don't win the World Cup. I want them to lose emphatically in this coming year at the World Cup, and I hope the heat gets to them. And it's all too much. And as for Ireland, I'd like us to win it. Games we're going to be playing Scotland, so I'd like to beat Scotland. But the main thing is for England not to win the World Cup, please. Thank you.
Fair enough. You're still that petty. Glad to see nothing's changed further with a new year.
I mean, that really indicates that England have a really good chance. That really indicates that England have a good chance of winning the World Cup. Absolutely. Because, you know.
Before we end.
I still haven't said mine anyway, but go on.
Sorry, funny you should mention. Recently was on a vacation and saw Didier Deschamps. Me and my dad saw him. Asked him about.
Where'd you bump into him?
What? Wait, what?
Where was that?
What?
I was just on a holiday. And he was staying at the same hotel as us. And we saw him multiple times cheering around the hotel.
Little birds, did you call it?
Yeah.
Out Cleveland.
No. Me and my dad spoke to him on Christmas Day, actually, funnily enough. And we asked him, who are you most worried about for the World Cup next year? And he said, I'm worried about He said Belgium first, which I thought was fucking weird. And then he said Brazil. And he said, are you worried about England? He said, they've had chances to win. I thought, he's basically saying Southgate is shit. And he's had his chances to win a Euros and a World Cup, and he hasn't done it.
It's like
he's definitely not worried about England.
Have you ever... I really hope you've watched Mike Bassett, England manager. But if you haven't, watch it because it's amazing. But they have Pele sort of featuring in the film, and he gets asked loads of questions like, who can win the World Cup? And he lists off like Brazil, France, Argentina, and he goes, but who's the outsiders? And it's this English sort of press officer asking him, and he goes, sort of Mexico are looking good, Colombia's got a decent side at the moment, you can get a few surprises even for Asia, and then he asks him, but what about England? And he just starts laughing, and it's.
it wasn't. I'll be honest with you, like it was a similar vibe. Like he doesn't rate our chances. You can pretty much tell from somenene's like body language.
I'm surprised. I thought you were gonna say the opposite. I thought you were gonna say that he was like, England have a chance. But then I was gonna say, Oh well, that's because he's speaking to 2 English fans.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
The fact that he wasn't even looking to please use it.
yeah.
Just to show face. And
Yeah,
just
because he
go,
could have
yeah,
easily
you know what?
gone.
England have a
Yeah.
chance.
Credit to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah, he was honest.
Nice. The thing.
Give you
Ali.
an idea, Ali.
Yeah, the thing I wanna see happen, although that's not something you can really see, but all mention of the Super League gone. Never again. Just
That's pretty wishful. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
I think
it is pretty wishful. I think this Super League is inevitable, but I hope that this year somehow brings an end to all Super League discussion. Just done.
You should just be hoping that Mo Salah's going to stay at Liverpool. That's
Yeah.
I mean, I could say, yeah, Will Salah stays at Liverpool, sign midfielders, but I guess I've said that multiple times.
In fairness, the Super League never happened again. Probably is more likely.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good point. More likely than the Liverpool signing midfielders.
Yeah, they're signing anyone.
God, that was a juicy one, guys. That's a bumper edition. That's a bumper edition indeed.
Just like Christmas, I am stuffed.
Yeah.
We didn't give them an episode over Christmas, so
Yeah.
Make up for it.
We're making up for it indeed, and more. Thank you, guys. I'll everyone listening. We hope we'll stick with this all year, and we hope you're with us in this journey. It's a World Cup year. It's exciting. I just look forward to what the Just Enough Football podcast will do during the World Cup. Happy with what we did at the Euros, actually. Let's see what happens at the World Cup. Fergal, yeah, I thought you had a thought there.
Yeah, we've got a new logo, don't we?
We got a new logo. If you want to go onto our Twitter and give your thoughts and opinions on it, with the release of the episode, the new logo will have been released. Like how we're releasing them concurrently. But yeah, that's really exciting. Shout out to actually my twin brother Kareem. He has designed this masterpiece, in my opinion.
That's a great bit of work from Kareem.
Yeah, it's lovely stuff. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Next week we will be back, same time, and see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.